Alright everyone, in this video I'm going to be talking more about this Holy Grail. Okay, to know how this works, the first thing you need to know is, okay, so in the universe we have, so there's a sun above us, the white sun, and below us is the black sun, and in the middle is the flat earth plane. And the earth is created by the white sun and the black sun's energy connecting like on a loop. It's like it's going in a constant cycle. And okay, now you can look at this as like, okay, so the white sun is conscious. It makes what you see and observe. And the black sun is subconscious. It's about what's in your heart and your intent. And okay, the way this works is, okay, so the white sun makes your physical body, it makes like your flesh and bones, and then the black sun brings your intent into fruition. It's like what you want to do in this world and what effect do you want to have on what's around you. And okay, so an easy way to understand this for people who still don't get how this works, you can look at it as like, it's like burning a CD. It's like burning songs to a CD. Many of you have done this. Okay, so you can look at it as like, it's like the white sun makes the physical CD, it makes the blank disc, and then the black sun burns the music, like whatever kind of music you want to bring onto the disc. It puts those tracks onto the CD. And, well, you can also, because, do people still burn CDs? Okay, and a way to update this is, you can look at it as like, it's like your computer or your phone or your tablet. Okay, so the white sun makes the physical tablet, and then the black sun, it makes programs for whatever you want to do on the tablet, like making videos, creating music, drawings, making document. Yeah, it makes the apps for whatever you want to do and whatever you want to create onto the tablet. And you can look at this closer as like, okay, now programs or apps, you can break them down to ones and zeros. Yeah, this is known as binary, the binary code. And so these ones and zeros, if you put them in a certain order, in a certain sequence, you get the code for making programs on a computer. So you can look at it as like the white sun makes just the ones and zeros. It makes the positive or neutral charge, and then the black sun puts them in an order that makes the code for creating the programs. So this binary, the ones and zeros. Now most people don't know what this means. They just see this as just ones and zeros. But if you put them in a sequence, you put them in a certain order, you can actually create code that you can actually read. So this translates to communication. So the more you know about the sequence of the ones and zeros, you can make anything. As you can see here, you can make, if you put the ones and zeros in a certain order, you can make all the letters of the alphabet, and you can make all the punctuations for sentences. And this will be written for like in a computer language. So you can actually create with these ones and zeros in a certain sequence. You can make full lines of code, you can make full sentences, and it's like making instructions on how to build full programs and apps on a computer. So you can look at this as like these ones and zeros, it's like the atoms and molecules in the world. Like if you put atoms and molecules in a certain sequence, then you can build the things you see in the world. You can build the plant and mineral and animal. You can make full biological systems if you put atoms in a certain order. So it's like the white sun is making the physical atoms and molecules, and the black sun is putting them in a certain order or a certain sequence that brings whatever you want into the world and creates the things and the behaviors and the actions that we actually have in this world. So it's just like with this binary, you have to learn the sequence, you have to learn the order of and you have to learn the computer language to build programs. And this is exactly what happens with the atoms and molecules in the world. So it's basically like whoever learns to use how the black sun's organizing structure of the atoms and molecules, if you learn how this works, you can control the world. Just like learning this binary code, whoever learns this, you can control how a program works. Okay, in computer languages, the more you know about the computer language, it allows you to create more complex like math problems and algorithms. And then you can create entire like very complex programs, and you can create entire like 3D virtual worlds. And you can create entire like artificial intelligence programs. And now one thing you can also learn how to do is, the more you know about how these programs work, is you can learn how to actually take over and change existing systems and programs. Okay, computer programs, they all have a basic framework of inputs and outputs and a logic for information. And if you learn how to you learn how to use this and manipulate the inputs, you can actually input changes into the code and even actually how the entire computer works. And this is actually how viruses start, and people intruding on computers through networks. Yeah, the thing is, the more knowledge you have of the computer language and the logic and the framework of programs, the more ability you have to control really any kind of program. There are a lot of parallels to people using computer programs and people using things in the world. Like people using, like right now, you're using YouTube and you use like Google Chrome and Gmail. You use all these programs, but most people have no idea how they actually work. Most people have no idea of any knowledge of computer languages. Like people use YouTube, but they don't actually know languages like Java and Python and like Visual Basic or even just HTML. And well, the thing is, if you don't know about a program, especially if it's in a network, and you should know what kind of element you're in, that there's the possibility for intrusions, or what we know as viruses. Okay, you've heard about people like getting onto systems and computers and taking over programs and the functioning of computers. Yeah, these people known as, they call these people like hackers. Well, they know how to use the code and the program, and what they can do is they can replicate. You have a program that replicates and spreads to the parts of the computer that actually makes it work and makes it run. So this is what we know as like viruses or intrusions. Now, the thing you have to understand about like what we know as computer viruses, the thing you have to realize is they absolutely cannot happen unless you let them in. You have to give them permission. Okay, you have to download a program or open a file or allow something in the input of your system that's not secure. And yeah, the thing is that absolutely the first thing a virus or an intruder has to look for is a vulnerability. Like in the past, they would use discs or CDs. They would have a program on a disc, and it would have like a hidden function or operation. And if the user put the disc into the computer and decided to click on a certain thing or open it however, that would start the virus. Well, now most viruses are spread through the internet. They're spread through email or web links. And the thing you have to realize is everything you click on, like in your web browser, anytime you click on something, that downloads something onto your system. It at least downloads the HTML code for the text or the JavaScript for the images or video. So you have to make sure it's from a trusted source. And now, like email, they separate untrusted links with spam filters. And the thing is, one of the methods they use is what's called social engineering, where they kind of trick you with ads or like fake login pop-ups to give up your information, give your password or your login credentials. Now, so once an input of your system is connected to the network and it's not secure, those who know how to use the code and use the logic of the program, they have all sorts of methods to control your program and possibly your entire system. They can use this information, they can like steal it or use it, or they can choose to really just destroy your entire system. And if you don't know how this works, there is a possibility that your system could end up being used by an intruder, like a hacker. And if you don't know how this works, they could use it. They can use your entire system without you even realizing it. They can use it to spread the virus even further to other computers, just taking over your system without you even being aware of it. And this kind of computer is actually known as a zombie. Yeah, you have to keep that term in mind because it's used by people who make videos like me. So they use all these methods because they know how the code works. Now, okay, so one of the methods they use, like an example is they use what's called, they use a buffer overflow or what's called like stack buffer smashing. This is when an input of the program doesn't have secure, clearly defined variables, so they jam it with this shell code that puts it goes past the memory location for the data input, and it actually goes into the memory location that stores the logic for how the program runs. And many times that shell code that they input will include what's called a logic bomb. And so they switch the data that would normally go from the program like to the processor of the computer, and so they switch it with the code that directs the processor to a part of the stack that has the virus. So it has like inverted functions for data. Like they mark good data as bad, they might delete part of the program, or they might steal information if they have like viable information like your passwords or information they can use for like identity theft. Yeah, this kind of virus, this is actually known as a worm, as a computer worm. There are many famous examples of this, like the slammer worm or the blaster worm. So this is just one kind of virus. I mentioned viruses that spread through like disks. So a famous example of this it was known as the brain virus. This was known as a disk boot sector virus. This virus had a piece of code that actually takes the boot sector of the disk. That's the part of the disk that loads the data from the disk to the RAM that will be sent to the processor of the computer. And this virus replaces it with a copy of the virus. So the boot sector, the good data is actually marked as bad, and it's moved to the back of the disk. And this virus makes the disk drive of your computer unable or difficult for loading data from the disk. So it basically completely inverts the whole boot sector function of a disk, and it replaces it with this function of the virus. So this is this kind of thing that these viruses do. They have all this like inverted code for these functions of the program, and they either shut down your system or they take it over for an intruder. So if you don't know how these programs work, and you don't know how, you don't actually you don't get deep into what makes them run, just be aware that those who have this knowledge can use it to just take over everything. Well, what this is what's happening in the world. It's really the same as what happens in systems of networks of computers. Like in the world, people do all these things and they have no idea how they work, and then these same people, they see like me talking about like flat Earth, and I see a lot of people still ask, like, why would they make up the spinning ball, or why does it matter if Earth is a ball or it's a flat plane? Well, what's happening is, okay, so the Earth is like a program, and those who want to take over the program are using parts of what it actually is and how it actually works, and they've planted a virus. They've actually planted several viruses. Well, for everyone using all these different things in the world, you use the food, the water, you go to school, you go to college, you go to church, you watch TV and movies. Okay, all of these are infected with viruses. So the Earth is like a program that's supposed to run as its creator intended it, and we were given like instructions to use it with a certain proficiency and knowledge of it, but we got distracted. We willingly let in this, although we were being tricked, they are tricking us into doing it, but we gave permission to this virus, this spinning globe. And it's the spinning globe idea, it's like a logic bomb. It erases our knowledge of what Earth actually is and how to use it, and it basically reverses the function of the program. It stops the order of the information running for us to use and using the program, and it puts it somewhere else for someone else who's not supposed to be using our program, and it gives them full permission and ability to run it as they want. And if you're not aware of this, then it makes your system like a zombie, and you're spreading this spinning globe idea and you don't even know what's going on. So this is one example, but this is why we're given the reverse of truth on everything. This is how this virus idea works, like the spinning globe. Okay, so the spinning globe, this is like a virus. It's like okay, so we're supposed to know that, like, the way this is actually supposed to work is we're supposed to know that we're on a flat plane. We're supposed to know what the Earth actually looks like. It's very important to how our brain actually functions. We're supposed to know we're on a flat disk and there's a firmament, so there's no such thing as outer space for us to go to or for anything to come in, like aliens or whatever. And we're supposed to know that we're not floating on an empty vacuum just randomly or accidentally. Okay, this place is supposed to be specially made. This place is set, it's fixed, and it's specially made for us by a creator whose energy is in the white sun and the black sun, and there's a holy land at the center of the flat disk. And you need to be aware of all that, because you need to know that there's an above and below. You need to know which way is up and which way is down. And you need to know the middle, because these are important parts of the design of the creator. And we're supposed to be in the middle. Not only are we supposed to be in the middle, like between the sun above us and the black sun below us, we're supposed to be on the flat earth in the middle, but also this has to do with we're supposed to be in balance between the up and the down, between the as above, so below. So this idea of the spinning globe, so once you let this spinning globe virus in your head, if you're operating with this, so you're on a ball, so there really is no up and down. Like if you can believe you're like standing on the side of the the side of the ball, so there's really no up and down. It's really just relative to where you are on the ball, and so there's no such thing. There would be no balance of the up and the down, and this actually has to do with your morals and character, and deeper it has to do with your spirituality and connection with the Creator. So on the spinning ball, this makes what this does is it gives way to what's called moral relativism or solipsism. It means like in your head there's no balance of up and down, as above so below, so it's all just relative to where I am and how I perceive things in a fake reality. And it's also aided by this idea that the earth it's like floating in a vacuum, like just randomly as an accident. So really there would be no purpose, like nothing matters. And also the planet is in the solar system. This concept that the spinning ball is going around the sun, so it's just the sun above us, and then the sun wouldn't really be above us because we're on a ball that's spinning. So depending on where you are and like the time of day, and like so every night the sun would be in your mind, the sun is like going down to the other side, like below the horizon. So every night you think you're like above the sun, and most people don't even know about the black sun like on a spinning ball, because there's really no clear below side. So, and there's also no center of the disc, so you can't find the Holy Land. So nothing works when you're on this spinning ball idea. Nothing works the way it's supposed to, and the information that we're supposed to be using is being taken over and used by this intrusion. And another example is the religion, like this, what I call the Jesus is the Savior virus. And this is this idea that, okay, so Jesus is a man that died on the cross, and you have to believe in him to be saved from the underworld that is known as hell. Okay, so what this does is, first of all, it puts all the focus on Jesus. Now, Jesus is actually an allegory for the sun above us. So it's the sun, it's not the S-O-N, it's the S-U-N, it's the Son of God, and so it's the sun above us. Now, the above side of the universe, this is known as the masculine side. This is the divine masculine. That's why Jesus is always shown as a man. And so we're all focused on the masculine. But what this does is it completely erases the divine feminine from our mind. Most people don't even know about the below side of the earth. And so they don't know that there's a black sun with the feminine energy that comes through the center of the earth. So this has been replaced with this idea that the below side is an underworld known as hell, and Satan is a man with horns that wants to torture you for all eternity. Well, it's actually the below side of the earth, this underworld. This is where the black sun is, and it's a very beautiful, loving female energy. And it's the source of all your joy and love, and it brings your desires into the world. So if you don't know how this works, you won't be able to bring your intent into the world. And again, others will end up taking over for you. So that's just a couple examples of viruses. There's many other examples. There's the government virus, the language virus, time virus. I'll have to wait till another video to get into all that. But okay, so all these viruses. So the world it's not only like a program, it's like a full complex computer simulation. And it was created like this to be this virtual world, like, because now we have like technology where we can create entire 3D, it seems like they're like 3D holographic virtual worlds, and we can create entire like we can like send our consciousness into like an entire created reality. So it's so this world that we're in, it's basically like it's created to be like a virtual world of an actual higher spiritual realm. And as I've showed, okay, so we're on this side of the flat Earth, and now it's been known that there's another world on the other side of the flat Earth, and places around the world have had stories describing this part of the Earth, and people that came from it. People like in the Welsh culture. Okay, so in the Welsh culture, there's folk stories of people coming from a land called Anwen. And this Welsh folklore story, The Spoils of Anwen, it talks about people coming from... Now, this word Anwen, it actually translates to very deep or underworld. And there's an English folk story this is called The Children of Woolpit, and this talks about these children coming from an underworld known as St. Martin's Land, and they have green skin like the green astrolite. And it's been talked about in the Egyptians. They have the Book of the Dead that also talks about, and it has symbols that show and describe. So it shows the sun above us and the black sun below us, and there's an underworld. And there was a man who was very close to the ruling elite, a man by the name of Edward Bulwer Lytton, and he wrote this book called The Coming Race, where he talked about a Vril people that came from the interior of the earth. And also the Tree of Life. Pretty much every culture in the world is talking about a tree of life. It's a tree coming out of the center of a flat plane, and its roots going into the underworld. Like every depiction of the tree of life shows the same image. Now, this image of a tree coming out of the center of the flat plane and this roots going into the underworld, that tells you something very important, that our roots are in the underworld. So this world was created by people that came from first the underworld and then came to this side of the flat earth. So this world, what they tell is that this world is like a holographic simulation of the underworld. So these people didn't physically travel here. It's like their spirit and their consciousness was uploaded into this virtual world. So the ones who first came here, they were beyond this world in the boundaries of time and physical limitation and the current energy levels of this like computer simulation. And they chose to live in the boundaries of this world as like an experience. And they originally chose, they could come and go and leave this world and go back to the other side. So now this world has gotten to the point of it's like an experiment that's gone so far that it's like there's a loss of memory of how to go back to this part of the world, and I'm sure this is meant to be part of the experience. So now we're getting to the time where it's time to get back to our memory before we enter this like holographic simulation and go back to where we should be. So that's what Blood Over Intent is about. It's about connecting with the one who created this simulated world to guide us back to our true self and get this world back to what it was before it was like experimented with and changed and things moved around and switched around, and get back to being what it was when it was first created, which was a very delightful heavenly place. Okay, so I'm going to be making more videos about this, so stay tuned, everyone, and thanks for watching.